Welcome to Patriot Excel. It's been a little bit back here with Chris Greenman, right here in the middle of the day instead of our normal midnight broadcasting hour. So, Chris, what do we got today? What's on the agenda? What's happening to Trump's current court case? And you know a lot about courts, so
yeah, I was just in it yesterday all day. So I definitely do know a lot about it. What they're really doing, you want to break this down in the purest sense of how injustice is going on. You're keeping someone in a courtroom while the other one's out campaigning. You know, that's like two fighters. You're keeping one at home, on house arrest, in a bathroom while the other one's out there training, and then you expect him to be able to, and so that's how it's never been done in history. I know people see this, I know people are starting to see it, but they got to see it a lot quicker and with a lot more, enthusiasm, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, the polls are reflecting that he's winning because they're making him a victim, and victim culture is popular. So they're only it's not the marketing he may have wanted, but it's inversely kind of working. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of turning against itself, and it's actually helping his numbers because they're being looked upon as tyrant for all the crap they're trying to do to drag this guy down.
Yeah, exactly. And his every time something happens, we do see something. We do see something that his numbers will inch up. But the extent that you're in this latest one in New York with all Democratic jurors in a Democratic courtroom with a Democratic judge, all with the same goals. When you have these guys that are campaigning to bring down Trump, and they're the ones that is going to be in charge of him, like possibly going to jail, that's a bad bet. But on the other end, you got the Supreme Court acting in a non-bipartisan fashion with with what they've allowed him on every ballot in every state, and that just shut down all these states trying to individually get him off the ballots, which was great, and that's the way it should happen, and that was the whole purpose of the Constitution and everything along with that. So that's good to see. But I don't, this latest one, it's just not, when you don't play fair, it's just not. And Trump battles this stuff like crazy.
No, I've seen the left media and the right media come out. I go, let's see both takes on this. And like the left is beating him up. Oh, he's looking horrible. They got him. They get him against the wall. And the right's like, look how desperate they are trying to pull it this way. So you're in the middle going, what's the real truth of the situation? But you, with more of a legal background than me, you kind of see it for what it is. And they're just trying to drag this guy off the campaign trail. And they're trying to get a conviction, too, because that would give me more satisfaction than that. But there's never been a president arrested post-presidency. And also, if they're putting him on the ballot in those other places, that means the Supreme Court doesn't necessarily agree with what these little lesser courts can do, but they can tie him up and eat time.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing. And, their game plan is always, they do incremental things with the same goal, and they all stick together. And the Democrats are great at doing that. If you're going to give them credit, they are good. They do that very well. I mean, but it's like everyone likes the movie Ocean's 11, but at the end of the day, they're still stealing money. Okay.
Right.
I mean,
likable rogues. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have a lot of support. Everyone, oh man, George Clooney and everything. Oh yeah, great. Yeah, but they're still thieves.
Right.
Even though they do it well. I mean, that's what the Democrats are. I would actually call them the Ocean's 11, or whatever. We'll come up with a different name, probably much better. But let's start with old Hillary. I want to start with Hillary because she raised a lot of controversy in this last one.
Well, it looks like a certain somebody is still living rent-free in Hillary Clinton's head. The former Secretary of State is making her most unhinged attack yet regarding the guy she lost to in 2016. And yes, she did lose. This is the quote she just came out with. Trump is like Gaga over Vladimir Putin because Putin does what he would like to do. Kill his opposition, imprison his opposition, drive journalists and others into exile, rule without any check or balance. That's what Trump really wants. But is this the type of obsession with Donald Trump drowning out President Biden's message? Some Democrats and the media think so. Watch this.
The problem for Joe Biden and Democrats is Trump is crowding out, the trial is crowding out everything else. So Joe Biden goes out and does major policy things, but everything else is crowded out. And it's the Trump story.
This is a guy that doesn't care if he is the hero or the heel. He just wants to be the star. And in so many ways, he gets what he wants. And when we're focusing on him, I do worry electorally that he has a slight advantage.
Kaylee, do you think so? Do you think Gavin Newsom saying something is a legitimate worry?
Yes.
Whereas,
yes.
well, right. In what respect?
Absolutely. Look, I remember 2006, and at the time I was at CNN, they were obsessed with Donald Trump. You might as well call it the Donald Trump, and gave him maximum coverage. It's the same today. And I understand what you're saying, Marie, about the fact pattern of the case, despite being bogus. But we're not hearing from the witnesses in the case. We're hearing about what the witnesses are saying through reporters. We are hearing from Trump. And where other liberal networks used to not take his statements, they are now taking them in full. He has a megaphone.
I watched it on CNN today.
He has a huge megaphone. They're right. And what's the left doing? Hillary Clinton's comments, like taking the most extreme portrayal of him, which, by the way, Joe Scarborough made similar comments saying Trump said he'd execute generals. He never said that. The left can rest with extreme caricatures. Trump just needs to speak directly to the American people every chance he gets.
But Dana, don't you think he should take it from the courtroom to do more bodega-like appearances, whether it's going to a supermarket, like you said, with
pick your battles. I
inflation?
mean, that's not going to, he can't do it every night. I mean, I sort of said last week, I'd pick a different grocery store every night. and show them
Bodega
price tags,
technique.
but he can't do that every night because then
But it is
obviously
a good
that would get
idea.
old.
That's
But I
great.
do think he should do something in the evenings, like let's go to get pizza served. What do you want to do? Like get him out, get him in.
So yeah, I kind of get the gist of that, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Hillary's. It's funny that everything she's accusing Trump of is exactly what Biden's doing to Trump. That's why. I mean, it's like this game they play. Is this mind kung fu with the mass and the the mass media. It's like it's unbelievable what they do. They're trying. They're looking at themselves and saying, "Look what we're doing to Trump. Let's say that he's doing that to Biden somehow. How is Trump prosecuting Joe Biden? I mean, that's just asinine if you think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
who would keep watching the news with that kind of statement? Seriously. I mean, at some point, does someone say, wow, that sounds like BS. I think I'm going to change my news. I mean, it's like, I guess that's the part that gets me frustrated on is the most is the American people are not this. I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying the ones that buy into it because it's so black.
Well, if you just live a reactive life and you don't really dig and you don't have critical thinking, what can you expect? You watch the news, you go, that's what's there. I mean, when we were kids, remember older people would read the newspaper. Well, it's in the newspaper. I'm like,
Yeah.
And somebody wrote such a thing. If your buddy wrote a book report, doesn't mean it was based on truth. What if he made some of it up? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, well, I think the key thing that they just said on Fox there was that the people they're not hearing from the witnesses. The people aren't going they're not hearing the transcripts of trial, which that's the stuff like I read. And because that's straight from the trial. So you see what the witnesses are actually saying. All you're hearing is what a journalist is saying. It's hearsay on what the witness said. So they can go on and say, the witnesses are all saying this, when there's no truth to it. And then people like, well, the witnesses said that. And then they go tell their friends, well, did you hear the witness in the Trump's case said this, And then it's just like a bad rumor, It's like it's one of the things, the sins of, one of the biggest sins of in the Bible, if anyone still believes in that, is that to cast to bear a false witness. That's basically you're attesting to something that never happened or that you didn't see or that you don't know. And that's what the journalists are doing on a continuous basis in the media.
They're spinning. They're taking your words out of context. So what you're saying, Chris, and I don't know if a lot of people have heard this, is my understanding what you just said. People are going and they're watching clips and clip bites, just like they did when they wanted to take people off like Rogan or anybody else. They'll take little sound bites and run it like that's your main narrative. And they'll take a 5-hour conversation, narrow it down to 15 seconds and go, this is what he said,
Right.
And
then and you know how fast news travels? It's in like word of mouth and social media. All of a sudden it's accepted as the truth. And that's what they did with the Russia hoax and all these other stupid accusations they made that never panned out. No one talks about how they never panned out. No one talks about how it was all proven to be BS. Every accusation. No one talks about that. But they should, because you got lied to for 4 years and more. And you don't care. You don't care if the people you're watching lie to you every day. It's sad.
well, you just give up because you're exhausted, because you're worn out by the machine that never stops. And you have to go, is this true? Is that true? And then it loads 5 more facts and it distracts you and
Right.
it takes you on another tangent. And you're like, I forget where I was. I think I remember this, right?
Right. And then like why I like that thing you just showed was that Fox, I mean, that group they do a good job of actually telling, well, President Trump talks so much because he has to defend himself. And, he watches the news and sees someone saying something that's not true. And he was in the trial listening to the witness, and you got some of the news saying the witness said something different. Well, you'd be pissed too. And that's why you would say, that's why he's very direct. And when he does stuff like that, and people fault him for that, but that's what he has to do. What would you do if you were in that? You know what I'm saying?
I'd do the same thing. It's interesting because a lot of people have never been in a court case in their life,
Right.
and especially at this level,
Right.
And trying to run for president. No one in the world, in the history of America, has ever been in his.
No.
It's unique. It's like the first man on the moon. Okay, if we ever went there, wink, wink. But anyways, we're not going down.
I question that too, man. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but man, I do question that one on the real. I mean, the moon landing.
I could go into that, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like with Trump, he's being attacked. They're using spin on him. You see two different stories if you go from Fox to CNN. You could be about Trump, but look, more importantly, this is about the system of America. This is like what happens to him can happen to you, can happen to them. And that's what you need to be looking at most importantly. And Biden might not be looking at it because this can happen to him if it happens to Trump.
If this can happen to Trump, it can happen to any American in a way worse fashion. Trump's got, I mean, for the most part, has the money to defend himself with the best lawyers, all this. If this happens to you or me, okay, and you got people that have this deep of pockets, that they have these prosecutors that are endless, and they have, every prosecutor has their own investigators, and they're turning every rock you've ever done. Man, everybody in America would be in jail. Because everyone does something that they're not allowed, they're not supposed to be doing, right? It's taxes, whatever it is, I'm just saying, like, and that's the kind of scrutiny that Trump's been on. But still, they never get him on it, unless they fabricate evidence.
Well, is it true that if you have enough money, you can win almost any case?
For the most part, yeah. And they have more money than Trump, so don't kid yourself. People say, "Oh, Trump's rich." Well, not when you're paying as much as he does.
Right. It's one person versus a country's wealth or whatever.
Right.
Our taxes against Trump, basically.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
Like we're all funding these things against him, and that's another thing that people,
isn't that weird?
How much money it costs to do these things they're doing. People don't understand how much this stuff costs. It's crazy. You
voted to put these people in the office to attack the guy that's trying to make your quality of life better.
If that doesn't make you feel like a dildo, I don't know what. Can we say that on YouTube?
I think that's a clean word. I think it's a family word. But